Well, hello, men, and welcome to Messages for Men. This podcast is about men for men and how we can get a little better. Today, I'm excited because I have two guests, two young guys. You know, we had a podcast with two lovely young ladies, both college age, that talked about the dating scene, the difficulties with it, and kind of some of their expectations of men and kind of how things are going, let's say, going off the rails to some degree. And some of the comments I got was it'd be interesting to have two guys and get their perspective on the dating scene to kind of see where it's going. So I'm really honored today, fellas. I've got Isaac and Calvin. Isaac is a law student, correct?
Correct.
27?
27 years old.
So Isaac, you're in a relationship right now for about the past 9 months, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I've got Calvin. I think you're the same age.
29, that's right.
A construction superintendent for a commercial company here in town.
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yep.
Great. Well, both of you, thank you very much. Obviously, you've dated and you've seen some of the nuances with dating in the modern dating scene. So I'm kind of excited to hear from your perspective of how things are going and what it's been like for you guys. First of all, let me just kind of lay out my perspective real quick on some of the issues men have. I want you to understand, because I think most men who have their shit together don't see this, don't experience this, and don't know this. Let me give you some examples. For example, 80% approximately, I'll give you some stats. Approximately 80% of all suicides committed in the United States today is committed by whom? Men. Homeless? Who's more homeless, men or women?
Men.
Yeah.
Which sex suffers more from addiction, alcohol, drug addiction? Men. Who is incarcerated at 17 times the percent of women?
Men.
Yeah.
Who dies in war more commonly, men or women?
Men.
Who has tougher jobs in terms of physical risk?
Calvin.
Yeah. That's me. Yeah. That's me.
Calvin does. My point is that when we talk about the patriarchy and how wonderful it is to be a man, and I sit back and I look at the stats for a second, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it ain't looking so good, fellas. So I think we have to come from the premise of you guys may have your stuff together, both college graduates, both have great jobs and doing well for yourselves, but there's still some brokenness in men and there's still some issues within the dating scene. So I'm going to start this off with a question. In the past, let's say 4 or 5 years in the dating scene, what's changed and what's broken?
Calvin, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can just share my experience. It seems like there's been an uptick in online dating in the past 4 or 5 years. At least in our community, there's been a lot more acceptance towards online dating, a lot more successful relationships. And I would define successful as in ending in a marriage, found in online dating, and probably also just a general uptick in dates. Just like,
so what platform is, I'm curious, what platform is that? It's probably not Tinder, right?
Tinder is definitely a popular one. I think Hinge is the number one. If you're looking for a serious relationship and something that's going to last, yeah, it's Hinge.
Well, because, you know, things I've heard, and the young ladies talked about this, is that there's a lot of guys on the social platform, social media for dating, but a lot of guys get swiped left on, rejected. I mean, if a woman puts herself on a platform, she probably gets a lot of swipe rights.
Yeah.
And don't get a lot of that. So, I mean, from what I understand, it's not been a great scene for men. Do you think that's true?
Yeah. I know in my experience, so I've spent a little bit of time on the online apps, and it took me about 3 months to get more than a couple of dates out of that. And I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I don't think I'm by any means like a loser or a nobody. I would, I guess, esteem myself as a pretty reputable young guy. And yeah, it took me about 3 months to get anything more than just a date or two.
Yeah, but I think also it's kind of proving that it's kind of hard on men's, let's say, their ego, so to speak. You know, when you're on there and you can't get, for example, a date or get very few dates, for example.
To a degree, I think for me, I had to take it and say, like, this is just what it is. I think the reality is, I think girls are, I don't know what to say about that. I think generally in dating apps, women are like more highly sought after than men are.
Oh, sure.
I think
that's proven.
Yeah. And so for guys, a lot of times it's, I think we feel like an afterthought in the dating app world, and maybe girls are kind of more like the prize or the treasure.
Yeah.
And so you have, I don't know what the stats are, but I would imagine there's a lot more guys on dating apps than ladies. and therefore there's a bigger pool of men that girls have to sort through. And so it's a little easier for them to just reject. And then guys, it's the opposite. It's like, I like.
So I'll tell you something interesting. I saw this, maybe it's on a YouTube video actually, when I was preparing for this, talking about social. It's really remarkable where this guy and girl, and they both rated themselves a 7 in terms of looks. Okay. They both were honest and said, I'm probably about a 7. They both went on a dating app for the first time. In the first month, guess how many swipe rights he got?
Say 2 or 3. Yeah. 2.
How many did she get?
200?
Yeah, 200.
Almost 5,000.
Oh my gosh.
So she wasn't a 7.
Yeah. Or he wasn't a 7.
I don't know, but I think that kind of makes the point. Isaac, what do you see? I mean, what's broken about the dating scene in modern dating today, in your opinion, I guess?
Well, so I'm probably somewhat of an anomaly. I've actually never downloaded a dating app. I've never been on, but I have seen a lot of my friends and community use it. Like Calvin talked about, I think it's become more and more accepted of like, this is the way to meet people. And I would say, especially in your later 20s, right? I think in high school and college, you're surrounded by people who are your peers. You're in classes together. There's more natural interaction.
Right.
But after that, it's kind of like you have your buddies, you have your community, and how are you supposed to meet new people, right? You have a job now. Where's the time even to find somebody new? So I think this move towards dating apps, it's almost like there's a feeling, or I felt this way before I met my current girlfriend, that I almost had to be on a dating app to find somebody. And I felt a lot of pressure to be on a dating app, which is a tough spot to be in, especially for someone who maybe, would rather meet organically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that really resonates with me. I remember, or just in times of singleness, the question I come back to a lot is, how am I going to meet this person?
Mm-hmm.
I desire to be in a relationship. It feels like there's not a lot of maybe eligible bachelorettes out there. How am I supposed to meet them? Is it the town I live in? Is it my friend group?
Mm-hmm.
Is it,
Yeah, but
hobbies?
there's a problem that we have to try to uncover. Maybe we'll dial back a little bit. For example, when you take at the average 18 to 29-year-old male in the United States today, almost 2/3 of these males are single. Compared to females, and that's about 18 million men, by the way, compared to females, the same age group, and there's about 1/3
that are
Think about
single.
that for a second. 2/3 of the guys are single. A lot of them not by choice, I promise you that.
Mm-hmm.
And only 1/3 of the women are single. So there seems to be a major disconnect. I guess what I'm alluding to is, are women expecting too much? Do women want too much? Or, I've heard from some of the younger girls that were on the podcast that maybe men don't have a lot of resiliency anymore. They can't take rejection. They check out. They don't want to be part of it anymore. What are some of your thoughts on, from a guy's perspective, are women unrealistic in what they want from a guy?
Well, I think first off, to respond to the statistics,
Please.
I find that really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So are women dating older men typically?
Well, I mean, for example, 2/3 of them are dating somebody.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it goes back to the theory, whether it's true or not, you guys can decide, that women want a guy of a certain status,
Right.
a certain income, a certain look, a certain height. So when you take a look at the relationship, I mean, there's certain criteria that women want. Let's say, for example, you decide, I'd like to meet and date a guy who's 6 foot or taller. Do you know what percentage of men in the United States that is?
20%?
14.8.
Oh, wow.
So already you've eliminated the dating pool down to 14.8. Do you guys say, for example, I have to date a woman of a certain height? Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I in terms of, think about it this way too, which I find interesting, and I heard this as well. When you take a look at the dating scene, when you take a look at divorce, for example, 70% of all divorces are initiated by women. And if you're educated, have a college degree, it's almost 90%. So in relationships, for example, and I'm not here to pick on women, but I'm just going to say, generally speaking, is something I'd be interesting to talk about. what's the most common highest divorce rate? It's actually lesbian couples. The second highest breakup or divorce rate is whom? It's heterosexual couples. The least likely to breakup rate or divorce rate are gay couples, men. What's the common denominator there?
Keep the toilet seat up.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying, what I'm saying is that, is that as much as men are looked at as being toxic, as sexist, mansplaining, manscaping, all the other stuff, and that men are the issue associated with all the dating problems we have. And I'm not saying that men don't have issues. We do. And I'm saying men aren't a problem. We can certainly talk about that. But I'm here to represent men as well and say, look, there's something going on here with women as well. And statistically, I can point to several factors that say, yeah, you're part of the problem too. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess my question in response to that would be what is making it so bad for these women that they want to end a marriage? If it's initiated by that percentage of women, what are men doing?
Well, yeah, and that's a good question. I think in many cases, if women think that they can find something better, if they think they can find another resource that has more money, if that guy is able to procreate, he's what the look they want.
So are men failing women then?
Yeah.
In marriage?
Yeah,
because
they are. I mean, to some degree, absolutely. But I also think, conversely, I think that women are failing men as well. And that's the struggle we're in right now when you take a look at it. I mean, the average age, when I was, 40 years ago, the average age was probably closer to 20 to 22 years of age to get married. Now it's probably closer to 30 or more. People waiting longer to get married, longer to have kids.
Yeah.
And then the relationships along the way, they're just becoming more difficult all the time. And I'm trying to say, what are we going to do about it? How do men fix this? How do men work on this? And do men have 100% ownership in this? And they do not. I mean, some of the things that I have seen, there is a sense of delusional behavior on the part of women and what they want or expect from a guy too.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, let's break it down in numbers. I just told you 14.8% of men are 6 foot tall or taller. If you're looking for a guy who makes over $100,000, for example, if you're looking for a guy that's not obese or overweight in your category, you're down to about, when I did the numbers, our chat GPT actually did it for me, 0.78% of men.
You know what that translates to in population in the United States right now? What 0.78 would be?
Oh, well, we've got 350 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't graduate from Tennessee, University of Tennessee, so you tell me. But my point is it's pretty small.
Yeah.
So you've got basically what you may have out there is a large number of the young females out there looking for a small percentage of men. And men don't behave. Men aren't like this. And I tried to explain this to the gals on the podcast. Men don't look at it like that. I mean, for example, you can be a CEO of a company and you'll still date an airline flight attendant, won't you?
Or a waitress.
Yeah.
Well, what have you, in your experience, interacting with men, like what are some of the criteria that like men look for in a relationship?
Well, I think what I've experienced is that men want feminine energy. And when you have this mindset of women need to behave more like men and men need to behave more like women, it comes from the feminist movement. I think there's sex or gender confusion. Men are like, what am I supposed to be doing now? How am I supposed to behave? And some women take it upon themselves to have more masculine energy when they step back and look at themselves and say, that's not what I really wanted. I wanted a man in a relationship who had masculine energy. I wanted a man who was stable and held his frame. I wanted a man who was secure in who he was. I wanted a man who could hold me stable. I wanted a man who I felt safe with. I wanted a man with purpose, confidence, in some ways going somewhere. That's masculinity. I think women ultimately want that, even though they say they don't. Be careful, men, because what women say they want, they want the vulnerable guy. To a point. To a point. They want a guy that's soft and, all this other narrative around more of the feminine. That, I don't think that holds up true, because ultimately I think men from a biological wiring perspective,
Mm-hmm.
still want masculinity.
Mm.
And when men don't present that, that's a problem.
Yeah. I think you've done a really good job of giving a definition for masculinity.
Oh, okay.
And I think I might add a few nuances.
Sure.
I think when I think of like true masculinity, right, there's the perception of like strength. But like you said, there's also a stability, a confidence. But I think more than anything, it's strength and humility, I would say. I think one of the defining features of a man is his ability to lend strength, to be generous, to be there for somebody. And I think, and maybe the toxic masculinity, right, is falling off on the other side of the horse, right, where you go too far into the strength.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, Isaac. There is a such a thing as toxic masculinity.
Right.
But know this, fellas, there's a such thing as a toxic femininity as well.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's people are toxic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not necessarily men and women or women. It's people are toxic.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, what is at the root, right? We're talking about like this breakdown that's happening between men and women in dating, right? What's at the root of that? Is it, I think there's so many factors that we're talking about now that are at play, but at its core, I would believe, and Calvin, I'd be curious about you, people are broken, right? And that's nothing new. I think we have new tools at our disposal that are amplifying that.
Sure.
But like people are broken. And so what do you that is a much bigger question of what do we do with that? Right.
That's tough because life as exists today, Isaac and Calvin, looks nothing like it when I was your age. When I was in high school, there was no such thing as a cell phone. If you wanted to ask somebody out, you had to look them in the eye and ask them out or use a landline. If there was distance, because long distance phone calls cost money.
Yeah, right.
You actually had to write letters. I mean, I know this sounds really foreign to you guys, but the whole dynamic and to your point, Isaac, when you throw in social media and social platforms and expectations and comparisons and all the things that happen today in society, you're just the nuance. And I think you're bombarded, the noise, the stimulus, everything surrounding the dating scene and how it works for men and women, quite frankly. I think that disrupts the balance of men and women and how they connect with each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in my experience, I've seen a lot of women who may adopt these, what we would call masculine traits. I've seen them, start a relationship with a man who is very masculine, and you see those like masculine traits that they have kind of melt away a little bit. Like they're able to give themselves more into the femininity.
So why do you think that is?
I think it's because women, when they don't have a good leader, a good masculine leader in their lives, they're going to fill in those gaps naturally.
And I think you're absolutely true. And sometimes it's the narrative that women are told. If you want to be in the C-suite, you want to be an executive, CEO, CFO, CMO, you're going to have to exhibit male traits in order to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is many women do that, but don't enjoy that posture. They do it because they feel like they need to, but they don't enjoy it per se. I'll tell you something real quick. I'm part of a new men's group, and I was asked about this topic. What's the difference that I see versus my generation, and I'm a boomer,
right,
versus your generation? And I had to think about it for a while, and I came to this conclusion, and tell me what you guys think. I think today, or when I was your age, women wanted men who were willing to accept responsibility. In other words, they wanted a man, for example, to take care of the house or the cars or the finances. There were specific roles that women acquiesced to and said, I want you to be the leader of these things in this family. And they also gave them the authority to do so. Today, what I've kind of seen and noticed is that women, by and large, still want men to take that responsibility. They still want us to be financial leaders in the home, to take care of things, the cars, or whatever men need to take care of. But they don't give you the authority, per se, to do so. An example that came up was, there was a guy who was talking about this, how he wanted to increase. He's responsible for the family finances. He wanted to increase his 401k contribution because he said, we're behind. We're going to retire someday, and right now we're not putting enough in. His wife said, you may be in charge of finance, but hell to the hell no. That ain't happening. Little Susie needs to go to a cheerleading camp, a national cheerleading camp this summer, and I want to send her there. She qualified for it, and I promised her she's going, so there'll be no money going to the 401k because she's going to go to this camp. What did the man do? Acquiesced. So my point is that what I see in relationships sometimes is that women still want men to have a responsibility, but they don't have the authority to do that. And men don't take the authority to do that. And I'm not talking about the type of thing you're controlling, it's tyranny, it's just masculine, ugly. I'm not talking about this because men need to talk with their spouse, girlfriend, or whatever about decisions that are made that affect both of them in a healthy way. We need women to be able to come alongside us and do that. But women need to still, and I'm going to use the word, and I know nobody likes it, but women still need the ability to submit to a man if you're going to give the man the responsibility to do that. Does that kind of make sense or not?
No, I think I definitely understand the argument. I think, when I hear you talk about that, I think of the question of leadership in a relationship, right? What does that look like? What does it look like healthily? And at the end of the day, right, if there's only two people taking a vote, somebody has to be the tiebreaker.
That's exactly right.
So I totally understand that. I think there's so many, emotions and connotations around this idea of women submitting because of just, again, we're broken people, and you've seen how that has been taken advantage of. I was raised by a single mom, and experiencing the downside of when, a man uses his authority maybe in the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I think, yes, there absolutely has to be this leadership. And I would believe that should fall on the man traditionally. But I also think, to set a blanket rule of just, this is the way that it should always go, it doesn't really allow for the nuance, right? Because who's the referee, right? That's just where I'm coming from.
No, and I get what you're saying, but to your point again, if a decision has to be made and you're both undecided, you're going to have to figure out, you're going to have to work together to figure out where the decision is going to be made and where it's going. But I see, I've seen women today, for example, and I talk to young men who experience this. It's almost like, fellas, the patriarchy's over. You're done. It's our turn. And men shrink. Men hide. Men are not willing to stand up, and they don't become resilient if that happens. And men aren't allowed to be men when that happens. I think there still needs to be a masculinity in a relationship about that. And I think there's certain things that women do much better than men. I'm going to tell you right now, nurturing, for example. Oh my, I couldn't raise kids like my wife does. I just can't. Right. That's not how I'm built. But at the same time, she doesn't have the acumen, or she doesn't have the desire, I'll say. She's got the smarts, but not the desire to be involved in the business side of things that I've had to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think we both have strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I still believe in a relationship, not a partnership. I don't agree with partnerships. I think that's bullshit. You don't need a partner. You need a girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse. And in a relationship like that requires intimacy and love and connectiveness and just being able to support and stand up for each other. Men and women have to do that for each other. But I still think men need to make sure that the masculine frame and the masculinity of who they are is still present.
Yeah. This is making me think about, I would say my parents' marriage, they're still together. It'll be 30 years this year. So that's really awesome.
That's great.
Let's go, Steve.
Yes, Steve. But anyways, my dad is he's just a man of very, very high character. And he's a man who you want to lead the household.
Bingo.
And so I would say my mom, she fills in all those gaps that he can't fill, like the nurturing side you said. And, and she's very tenderhearted, but from earliest memories to now, it's like dad's the leader here. And it's just because of his character.
I'm sure she had no problem with that.
Yeah. She wants to,
the feminine energy falls into that. And they love that about men. And then men love that about women too. But when we confuse this and act us to flip roles, I don't think that's how we're wired to be per se. And it's not to say that some men cannot have more masculinity than others and have more of a feminine presence than others. I'm not saying that. But I do think in relationships, men, many times, we really do lack the masculine frame. And part of that, we'll talk about this, Isaac. I think part of that's because we lack fathers in the home who role models masculinity.
Yeah.
You know, if you get it from the drug dealer down the street, that's not positive. That's not positive masculinity. That's 100% toxic.
Right.
So are men getting the idea of masculinity? It's from a father like you. That's where we need it to come from. It's teaching men, boys, how to become men, how to take care of families, how to take care of women, how to take care of each other in communities. We have far too many young men today and boys without fathers in the home. And that is going to be, I think it's a major problem we have in society today.
Right. I would even go a step further. And I think, you know, past the breakdown of like the family unit, the traditional family unit,
right?
I think we also see a breakdown of just traditional community, right? You know, I think like both my parents, like they did not really have a community or a group of friends that they did life alongside. And so it was pretty much just the kids and them and then work, right?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't around like a lot of other strong male role models until later on in my, you know, teens and 20s. And I think that's a real disservice, right, to the next generation, because, you know, having a strong, you know, father presence in the house is so impactful. But I think what's more impactful is even having a group, a community, right? You know, it takes a tribe, but I think we don't really have that as much anymore.
And men aren't good at it.
Right.
I think first and foremost, I agree with the community, but I think fathers in the home, good fathers.
Absolutely.
Bad fathers in the home do bad things. And they teach their sons bad things.
Yeah.
Good fathers in the home can really teach young men how to become men of character. Community, we're not good at. I've had struggled with it, fellas. My entire, I force myself to be involved sometimes in men's groups because I struggle because I guess I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to be vulnerable with you. I don't know if I want to tell you. I don't know if I want to take my mask off. And you see that I'm a piece of shit. We don't do that well. We don't communicate. We don't network. We don't bond very well together because I think it's emasculating for men, or men believe it to be. I don't want to show you fellas that I'm weaker than you. We compare and contrast.
Do you think that's a natural thing?
I do. I think it's in our DNA and our wiring. You know, when you take a look at, you know, even 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years ago, you kind of had to be that way as a man. It was more about, you know, proclivity and about securing your position in the tribe. Otherwise, you get kicked out of the tribe. You're going to die. You know, the reason the human race survived is because of community and our ability to have community.
Collaborate.
We weren't the strongest species out there.
No.
It was our ability to communicate and survive in tribes of 50 or less that actually, but my point is that men struggle to do that. Women, on the other hand, they have really no issue with that. Women connect, they're empathetic, they communicate, they love on each other, they're there for each other. Men struggle. And to your point, Isaac, I personally believe men have to get back together with each other and communicate and be willing to be vulnerable and be willing to get together, have beers, do something together, share life together with other men.
I couldn't agree
When
more.
we don't do that, you know, men search for other meaning, the meaning of life. What's our meaning in life when we don't do that?
Relationship, probably.
Well, if it's not in the relationship, where is it going to go? It's going to go to alcohol. It's going to go to weed. It's going to go to drugs. It's going to go to porn. It's going to go to things that numb us out and make us feel okay.
Yeah.
We need network. We need men together to feel okay.
I completely agree. I would honestly say, in my experience, Calvin, and I'm really curious about you, I would say that that's probably been the area of my greatest wealth. Has been like, I think from 18 on, I just was surrounded by great men, great friends. And I think that that's played like a pivotal role in my development and my formation. And so, you know, I think maybe it comes easier to certain people, but it's been so monumental in my life. So I don't know. I can't speak highly enough as to the importance of it.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't know how you feel about it, Calvin, but for some men, like me, for example, I do it to a point and then it actually sucks energy from me. I can be around people for a period of time and then I'm saying, I'm kind of done.
Right.
And I need to re-energize. I need time alone. I need myself to think. I've got to process. And I think that's how a lot of men are designed. It's not that I don't need people. It's not that I don't need love and want to love. It's that I don't do it in the same way women do by and large.
Right.
And there's a lot of men out there that I've got a buddy that he wants to be around people constantly. He thrives in that moment. It's for me, it's like my kryptonite.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, something I want to address real quick. Something was brought out by Katie and Jilly in the podcast I did with them. What do they find attractive, and what do they find that men don't do or not good enough at doing, I should say. It was one, they felt like men lack confidence. All right. That seemed to be a prevailing, they want a man with purpose. They want a man with confidence. They want a man who feels like they're going somewhere. They want a guy who doesn't make them all about the world. In other words, the world doesn't revolve around them. The guy has his own life, for example. The second thing they mention is how men lack resiliency and how they get rejected. She gave examples at the bar of where, a guy saw her across the room, didn't come and talk to her, but ended up texting her later. So, I saw you there, but he wouldn't come up and talk to her. Or when she said, I'm not available, I have a boyfriend, and he starts kind of being really needy and clingy and saying things like, yeah, but can't we just be friends? And just things that she feels, I know, they called it icks. They said guys anymore have icks that bug them. What do you guys think about that? Are we lacking motivation, fellas? I mean, I can see in some ways we do, and how we substitute it with other things, and you know what I'm talking about. But what's your opinion on that?
Right. I hear both of those things, and it seems to me they're both confidence issues. Both of those things. I think if maybe, I don't know the story specifically, but maybe if that young man had more confidence, he would have gone up and talked to her in the bar. Or maybe if that guy had more confidence, he wouldn't want to be just friends. He'd have enough self-respect to say like, okay, you're dating somebody, I'm interested in you romantically. We're not gonna communicate because I have confidence and self-respect. So it sounds like a confidence issue to me. What do you think?
But real quick, I'm going to stick with you for a second,
okay.
Calvin. It's a confidence issue. We agree with that. But the question really is, why?
My personal belief is it's social media. There's so much comparison on there. If you can get on the explore page of Instagram and you scroll through, it's like, guys with 6-pack abs, they're driving sports cars, they're taking private jets. I think there's so much available for you to go look at right now for what we would call success, which is, these worldly things that are really, really hard to obtain. And they look at that and they think, I'm not there yet, so therefore I am less than. So therefore,
not good enough.
Why would these girls want to talk to me anyways? I have nothing to offer.
Because social media has presented too many other men that offer more.
Right.
Isaac, what do you think?
Well, I mean, for me, the question of why do people lack confidence? So growing up, that was me, right? I had zero confidence. I couldn't talk to a girl. That would terrify me. But
now,
I think,
let's unpack it just for a second.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why? Why would that terrify you?
Well, so to the point, I didn't have an identity, really. I didn't have something that was grounded.
Because you didn't have a father? What was the reason for that?
Right. Well, I mean, I think forming an identity is a process, right?
Sure.
I think a lot of people do have a family system that they're brought into that gives them that identity or, that confidence, that stability.
Right.
Other times, but I think the world in general, right? It tells us, put your identity in this, like put your identity in work, in success, in how you look, right? Those things are so fleeting. Those things are so temporary, and they're ultimately insecure. And so of course you're going to be insecure if you're putting your identity in that. So for me, when I look back on my younger self with a lot of grace, it was because I didn't have a strong identity. And so I was looking to somebody else. I was looking to that beautiful girl to say, hey, Isaac, I actually find you interesting. Isaac, I actually find you worth my time. Because I didn't believe that about myself.
And were you afraid she would reject you?
Absolutely, right? Because that's like a core fear of you're other, right? You can't come in, you can't be a part, you can't belong.
Yeah.
And when you give somebody else that power, that is so vulnerable, right? And so I think to the point of like, what is the core issue? I think so many young men, and I was one of these young men, we don't have a strong identity, right? And so I think there's so many great sources for that don't lie in these temporary kind of fleeting things. But it's really unfortunate. But I think that's where a lot of the insecurities come from.
But that is so well said, Isaac. So well said. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's that fear of failing, fear of not being good enough, fear of not being seen. I think men today, especially, are not equipped to handle rejection well. Instead of having the mindset of, look, if you pursue a woman and she really doesn't have, you validate her and give her all the things you think she wants, isn't it better to face rejection up front and move on than it is to go down the line and think you've got something there only to find her to ghost you, only to find her to dismiss you or devalue you? I mean, men need to take it from that approach. Like, if I see somebody that's attractive and I want to ask this person for a coffee or ask her out and I get rejected, that's not my person. That's all.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
Right.
She is not my person.
Right.
Move on.
Yeah.
But I think, we chase too much men. We chase women. We put them on a pedestal. And we over-validate them and try to give them because we think the more we give, the more they will love. That's not true. I mean, there has to be mutual respect, and men have to have self-respect in themselves in order to get that from women. So, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head there. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it also hurts too when you have such a high view of the relationship and you're elevating the woman maybe higher than you ought. And
Yes.
I know for me,
put them on a pedestal.
yeah, like you said, and,
Yeah.
and I know for me and what I've experienced is sometimes I've thought like, oh, if I could find my person, if I could date that person, then like everything will be good. Everything in my life will be perfect. And I elevate the relationship maybe higher than I should. And
here's what guys do. I mean, I've read about it, seen it. I know what guys do. You see a woman and you may think that she's a 10 in your world and maybe you're not a 10, right? So you put her on a pedestal. What does that mean? Well, that means you're always available for her 24/7. You give her what she wants. If she needs something, you're there. Financial resources. You're the one paying for meals, for vacations, and doing all the things because you think you're not good enough. So to compensate for that, I've got to give more. Well, eventually, and you've got to be more. Eventually what happens is the mask does come off. The authentic self is exposed. She begins to see the chink in your armor. And then what happens? At some point, she says, geez, I'm not getting from you what I thought I was going to get. And she begins to devalue you, make comments about you, criticize you, and eventually it's just going to be dismissed. Men have to approach relationships not as that women are the prize, but that women, for us, should be a relationship that supports both of us. In other words, if she's not willing to meet my needs and meet me halfway, then I'm sure as hell not going to go the other half. And if men don't approach it that way, they get it's the old nice guy syndrome. Men get abused, they get taken advantage of, and ultimately they get heartbroken because of that. I don't know if that makes sense or not to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, what it brings to mind for me is just this this idea, and I am guilty of this. Like in the past, I've fallen in love with the idea of a person, not the actual person, right? Because the actual person is flawed. They may seem like a 10 right now, but I promise you there's some ugliness there, right?
Sure.
And you fall in love with this idea of a relationship and what it will mean for you and all the benefits, right? But you're not falling in love with the person because a person is flawed and just like me. And so if I could talk to my younger self, in that position, it would
Even
be
though
like,
you're 27?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm wise for my age. No, if I could talk to my younger self, I would just remind him like, we're all just human.
Yeah.
Right. This woman that you think so much of that you're like, if only she could know my name, she's just a person.
Yeah. And like I said, I want men to know that if this is the response you're getting from that so-called perfect woman, she's not your woman.
Absolutely.
And it's probably better off.
Absolutely.
So what do you guys think about, and when you take a look at women and dating, what are you looking for in a woman? What do you want in a mate? What do you want in a spouse? What do you want in that relationship? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I feel like what I've been looking for has changed a lot over the past 5 years for me. When I was younger, probably in college, I was looking for somebody. When I was younger, I would say I was probably looking for someone who's, very physically attractive, someone who's high energy, bubbly, someone who just kind of, I'm more of a soft-spoken guy, more low key, and I guess I was looking for someone who brought the energy with her into the room. And then I think you find those girls and you date them, and then you kind of figure out like maybe that's not necessarily what I'm valuing as much now. And I think now I'm just looking for someone who's I know we talked about it earlier, but almost like a best friend, someone who's just like a fun companion who you want to spend a weekend trip with, someone who can fill in your gaps when you feel like you're lacking. Because some days, I'm just drag out after being on the job site all day, and I just need someone to come in and like lift me up where I'm lacking. And I think those traits they take more time to find. These are not surface traits you can just go on 1 or 2 dates and recognize immediately.
Sure.
You have to get to know someone to find those things. What about you?
Yeah, Isaac, what about you?
Yeah, well, we talked some about this off camera, but I think what has become more and more important to me is finding somebody that shares the same values, right? That shares that same vision for life. Because ultimately, I view myself as on a journey. I'm becoming somebody. I'm building something. I'm building a life that I want to live. I want somebody who views life very similar to that, who can come along with me on that journey, who will actually help me build that life that I'm trying to build. And so, I think in the past, I've even dated people that don't share my same values and often try and discount it or look past it. But at some point, those things come to the surface, and it just, you can't avoid it. And I think that if you're going to look for somebody to build a life with, which is what I actually want, that you need to share the values.
Yeah. Share the mission.
Yeah. It's interesting, men, because of the way we are, we're so, I guess, attracted to the looks of a woman that we overlook a lot, don't we? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I would encourage men, you need to date for quite a while, because she may be beautiful, but do keep in mind that beauty never lasts. We do get older. Yeah. Number 2 is it takes a while to really figure out who that woman is. And to your point, do you have the same values? Do they have the same belief system? Do you want the same things? Do you want kids? You're going to take time to figure that out, because if you don't, eventually it'll end in destruction and probably divorce.
How did you find that, Brad?
For me, I think with my wife, we had the same values. We grew up very similar. We both wanted the same thing. We both wanted kids. My wife wanted to stay home. I like the fact that she wanted to stay home and raise kids. I like the feeling that I was the provider. I had the masculine trait in that I wanted to protect, defend, and provide for my family. I enjoyed that feeling and wanted to be that guy. And she was comfortable with that. And that's who she was, and that's who she wanted to be. Some of her best qualities in life are the fact that her nurturing. I don't know of a better mother, quite frankly, or grandmother. You know what I'm saying? And that was her role. And she will tell you, even though she got involved and worked, she will tell you the best times of her life as an adult was being a mom. So I think for me, that kind of meshed, you know what I'm saying? We both had the same belief system, but I think that has to be there, and there has to be some compatibility. And also I would say you have to be able to show up for each other. And that doesn't happen a lot anymore. When the shit hits the fan, if she ain't showing up for you, she's not for you. When you're struggling and she ain't showing up, when you're in financial difficulty and she ain't showing up, when you're in physical pain and she ain't showing up, when you've had a bad day and she ain't showing up, she ain't for you. I don't think men understand and get that. And conversely, you need to be able to do the same thing. You got to be able to show up for them too. A lot of life is about just showing up. You don't have to be perfect. Men aren't perfect in how they show up, but you got to show up.
Was there a moment where she really exemplified that? Like at a low point, she showed up for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's been several in my life.
Yeah.
But for example, I work for a company called Guidant in pacemakers, defibrillators, and heart failure. And had a new boss come in, came from headquarters, brought with him one of his underlings with him. And I was a sales rep in a territory. And I didn't like this new guy. I didn't like him. I didn't like the whole mindset he came from. Anyway, he wanted desperately to terminate my employment. So his underling that he brought with him, the guy with him, who was my clinical field rep, means he supported me right now. He wanted him to be the sales rep. So he worked very hard behind the scenes, and I kind of saw it coming, to terminate my employment. You know, and I was thinking to myself, guys like me don't get terminated.
Right.
You know, what the fuck's going on here? And I suffered from major depression. I suffered from, I'm not good enough to, but anyway, my point is, in my suffrage, in my low point, she showed up. That's what I think relationships should be about.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess my question that comes to mind is, do you feel like you were still demonstrating those masculine traits that we talked about earlier in your low points? And if not, then why did she stick around?
Did I demonstrate the masculine traits? No, I didn't demonstrate any freaking traits at all, except I just wanted to stay in my room and never come out.
Yeah.
I mean, she had to hold the family together. She had to be the masculine trait, the feminine trait. She had to be everything. She had to be dad, mom. She had to be it all.
Right.
I think she stuck together because she saw in me the potential of who I was and who I could be again. I think that's what it was about.
That point right there, I think that is so critical.
Yeah.
Like for somebody to be able to see the potential in the other person and be committed to seeing that happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's at the core of a healthy relationship.
Right.
I think, you know, we get so caught up in who is this person right now, not who can they become. Like, and especially I think it takes love, it takes commitment, it takes a relationship to kind of help us get there.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I agree 100%, because here's something you guys haven't realized yet, but you will someday. People change. Relationship changes, right? I mean, you get older, your body changes. What you want in life changes, quite frankly. I mean, your core values are still there, but you know, people change. And so some of the nuances of marriage is being able to change with life as it changes too. And being able to accept that in one another, you know, still be able to have things that as a couple you enjoy doing together. I think it's crucial. You have to find something, a commonality in relationships. When I watch kids leave home and the empty nesters, and they look at each other and say, I don't know who you are. And she looks at you and she says, I don't know who you are. Recipe for disaster.
Right.
There's no commonality.
Right.
So men and women still need to be able to, you know, engage in life together and things they enjoy.
Yeah. It's tough for me to picture being in a relationship for, I mean, my current relationship, 9 months is the longest it's been.
Yeah.
You know, so like 30 plus years of marriage.
Yeah, I've been married over 40 years.
40 years.
And I'm going to just be honest, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Part of the reason is because I'm a shit. And part of the reason is she's not perfect. You know, but I think it's about accepting our flaws and our brokenness and who we are, and still say, I love you in spite of that. I'm still going to show up for you in spite of that. And I think that that's what relationships and possibly young people lack today, is the willingness to show up for one another. If you're a woman and I'm dating, you know, and you don't give me what I need or what I want, I'm going to go find somebody else. I got so many freaking options.
Yeah.
I don't need you, bub.
Yeah.
I'll go find somebody else. You know, if you don't present what I need, if we ain't eating the right dinner, we ain't going to the right places, seeing the right people, hanging out, I'll find somebody who will. And to your point, I think that's number one. It's really shallow and it doesn't last.
That feels like a real pressure that I think that young guys are facing in dating right now, though, is the pressure to be perfect. Or you get one date, you get one chance, and you're never going to see her again.
Yeah, that's why I'll tell you right now, fellas, and I was talking to a young man about this not too long ago. I'm a big proponent of coffee dates. And I've heard women get online and they say, look, coffee dates are for colleagues. If he ain't going to take you out for dinner and get you a ribeye, then he ain't worth your time because you are the catch. You are the princess. You are whatever they say they are. I encourage men. I said, coffee dates are perfect. Look, you get there, you get a chance to sit down, have a cup of coffee. You find out about her. She finds out about you. And here's what I always encourage young men to do. And I'll say this is at the end of the day, my encouragement is simply this, is that you initiated the coffee because you found something about her attractive. After the date's over, you exchange numbers. You simply say to her, look, if you feel this way, I enjoyed my time with you. I find you attractive. The conversation was stimulating. I think you're fun. I would like to know more about you. Call me if you feel the same way. Put it back on her. The reason for it is, if you keep clinging and chasing and begging and all the stuff that young men can do, you may get a couple more dates with her because she wants those Bronco tickets that you're offering, right? But that don't last. And when she does, and when she all of a sudden ghosts you, man, you're devastated. At least you're not emotionally invested when she doesn't call you back after a coffee date. And you simply say to yourself, she wasn't for me. Men, on the other hand, can protect themselves by just simply saying, hey, look, if she doesn't call me back, that's okay. I mean, it was a nice time. I enjoyed the time with her. Got to know her, but it didn't go anywhere, and I move on. So if I was a young man, I wouldn't invest initially a ton of money, time, energy, and effort in women. Make sure it's worth doing it for, quite frankly, because otherwise, if you get emotionally attached or involved, it can be heartbreaking. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, no, you're describing an experience of mine very recently. So you're talking and I'm replaying it in my head, but I can just spell it out real quick. We had, I think like 4 different dates in about 6 or 7 days. So it's like very quick, really great time, really great energy. And I was really confused when I started to feel her like pull away because my page was on, oh, we're having a great time. We're both attracted to each other. We're like very intellectually stimulating one another. What am I doing wrong? Because I could feel her start to ghost me, And so I had to essentially put the brakes on the ghost and say like, hey, what's going on? Like I called her, she didn't pick up. She didn't call me back. I had to reach out again and be like, hey, what's going on? Because 2 days ago, it seemed like you were really digging me and now you're not. So what did I do? And just back to your point.
Did she ever call you back?
Yeah, I did get in touch with her. It took a little bit of effort, but she essentially said like, hey, I'm not in a place to date right now, which is super confusing to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, first of all, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It just, for whatever reason, it could be because she was in a good mental position. It could be because she lost interest. It could be a million things in a woman's mind. It could be because she's testing you, whatever. But if you were to talk to me about that when you're going through, I would say simply one thing: do not chase. Never chase women. When you do that, it signifies to them, you're begging, you're clingy, you're needy, you're all this stuff. What my position on that is with men is just let it go.
Right.
If she wants something, she'll let you know.
Right. And I guess the point I was trying to make is that I think there's some messaging that like guys need to be romantic. They need to chase. They need to like show how much they adore this woman. And
it's the old Disney story.
Yeah, the Disney story. And so it's been very difficult these past couple of weeks of just like, don't call her, don't text her.
No, don't.
The urge is there, but don't do it.
Calvin, don't. Okay. Do not do it. Do not do it because you'll just find the whole process heartbreaking. If she really does want a relationship with you, she'll let you know.
Yeah.
Let's maybe address some of your mindset of perception of what women want versus the reality. What are your experiences there?
I don't want to hug the mic here, Cal. I think, and I'll use my most recent relationship as an example. I think my perception of what women wanted, like, growing up, was based a lot on what I saw or read online, right? It's like this idea of women want the guy with the 6-pack. He's got all the money, he's the best looking dude. He's the most popular. And that was really what I tried to model myself after. But, after being in a relationship with somebody that I really like, I'm surprised to find, or maybe I shouldn't be, but what she's really looking for is like this idea of a masculine, good man, right? Somebody who she feels safe with, somebody who genuinely takes thought of her, who cares for her. You know, she likes the fact that I'm fit, but like that's not the starting point for her. That's not the end all be all. I think you do need a level of chemistry and attraction to have a successful relationship. But I think, you know, the dating reality for me has been far different from what I thought the women's perception was.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Calvin?
and in my experience, I would say as a whole, it seems like we like to focus on where we're lacking. And I feel a lot of my life I've been lacking in the social department. Maybe I'm not the most chatty. Maybe I'm not the funniest guy in the room. And so I think I've a lot of times felt insecure that maybe girls don't like me because I'm not very fun to be around.
Boring?
Yeah, boring. Like I feel, so I'll come into a date or a setup or something and think like I have to be really fun or she's not going to like me. All these external things are not going to matter. But in reality, I think my experience in these long-term committed relationships that I've experienced has been like, she just wants like a kind-hearted guy that she can trust, who's there for her. I think being funny and fit doesn't hurt by any means, but it seems like girls just really want like a good-hearted man.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of that stuff is proxy to secondary things that go on in the minds of women. But to your point, I think women value authenticity too. They really want whoever you are to be who you are.
Yeah.
And the sooner they can figure you out and who you are, they can figure out whether they find that attractive or not. And it's better for you too, right? But I think we wear, as men, we wear too many masks. You know, we hide our weaknesses and our deficiencies, and we do all sorts of things to make sure we present ourselves as Prince Charming. And, you know, in today's environment, I don't know that Prince Charming is the answer. It's really the answer is be authentic, be who you are. Again, and even amongst your security, do the best you can to be who you are and show who you are. And once again, and I mentioned this, if in that identity, your authenticity, she doesn't find that attractive, then she's not for you. There's somebody who is.
Brett, I'm curious what you think. At what point do you start investing, right? Because I totally get the caution of, hey, at first, you're not sure how invested she is in the relationship. Don't get your hopes so high. But like, at what point does that switch? Because I do think there is a place for intentional pursuit, right? Investing in a woman, making her feel safe and valued. You know, I think that's a important part of being a man in relationship.
Oh, it is. It is. And I think you're absolutely. I think a lot of it, you pointed out, is some of it is the energy. You had the energy and she did not at some point, right?
Yeah.
So when you continue to feel the energy of, I want to know more about you. I like spending time with you. This is fun. When she starts saying things like, hey, I got an idea. Why don't we do this weekend? And she initiates. And you begin to see that there is a connection between the both of you. And you talk about it. This is kind of what I'm feeling. Are you feeling the same way or not? And once you get that from her as a kind of a signal, then men can invest. There's nothing wrong with flowers. There's nothing wrong with chocolate and gifts. And there's nothing wrong with showering with a day at the spa and vacations and meals and all the stuff we can do. But my point would simply be this, men. Don't buy love. It's not out there to buy. You know, she needs to reciprocate. There's got to be masculinity in that, and your position and posture that says, you know, I respect myself enough and have enough self-respect. I am not going to chase you. I am the prize as well. And if you want to be a part of my life, just, you know, you need to invest in that too. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying there's an exact moment in time, but I think it's something we all feel internally, right? You can kind of tell. You could tell when all of a sudden things were a little off, things weren't going well, and women can do that. They're different that way, aren't they?
Yeah. You can feel it shift.
Yeah.
When they're not interested.
You know.
I guess, you know, one of the questions, like what I'm trying to grapple with is love is inherently risky.
Oh,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and I think if both people are playing their cards too close to the chest, nobody ever makes the first move, right?
Yeah.
I know that there's so much wisdom in saying, hey, like, you don't have to go, take her to Dubai or whatever, like date number 2.
Yeah.
But, there is a place where, and I think part of what it is to be masculine is to take risks,
Sure.
and to lead in that way. And
Yep.
so
Yeah.
I guess the caution is, don't play it so close to the chest that nothing ever takes root.
Oh, yeah, Isaac, you hit, and once again, women still want masculine presence, right?
Mhm.
And so part of masculinity is to be able to provide and do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just cautioning men that unless a woman is wanting to invest in you, if a woman is investing in the experience, in your validation, and the applause she gets from you, that's not love, fellas. So, but once she does invest in you, I think it's a green light. It's a green light to do what you can for her. Be there for her. Stand in the gap. Show up for her. Do all the things that masculine men do. But I'm going to say this, and it's going to piss some people off, just like you do. She has to earn the right to receive that. If she doesn't, you don't do it. Just like, you have to earn the right as well.
This reminds me of, I'm going to brag on my girlfriend. So one of our first dates, it was like, I was just finished my last final of the semester and I'm coming to pick her up for a date. And I walk in the door and she's made me a cake for completing my final. And I was like, never have I ever received a gift like that. It was so thoughtful, so intentional. And it showed me that she really cared about me. And that gave me so much more confidence to be like, wait a minute, this girl's different.
See, here's the key. Real quick. Here's the key. I'm going to give you the key, and I'm not going to charge you for it either.
Please.
Oh, okay.
Never, ever listen to what a woman says. Listen to what she does. Your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. Walt Whitman. I think it's true in relationships. Don't look for what she says, look for what she does. And what we do as human beings are patterns. If the pattern of behavior is, I'm looking out for you, I care about you, I want to take care of you, I want to invest in you, and that pattern of behavior, that's what you look for. It isn't, oh, I think you're so special and I love you and I think you're so handsome and cute. And that may validate you and you may, it may make you feel really good. But that doesn't settle relationships. That doesn't win at the end of the day. What wins is basically what a woman's willing to do. And the same for you fellas. Women should not listen to what we say. They should listen to what we do. Same thing.
It really reminds me of that concept of showing up that you were talking about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, so fellas, to kind of wrap this up, there's just 2 questions I have. One would be, if you were speaking to all the young men out there today, right? What advice would you give them as far as how to engage in the dating scene and modern dating and be part of it to find the love of their life? In other words, what's your recommendation?
It's no small question.
No, it's not.
I think for me, I'll go back to that identity piece. This is not that you have to be perfect before you start dating, but I really do think there's so much to it. If you can start at least to have some firm foundation, some identity, before you go looking to someone else, like a relationship, to give that to you, you're setting yourself up for success. I know it's hard being alone. It sucks. Especially when you desire a relationship so bad, but you have to have that foundation before you really start entering into a relationship. So I think my piece of advice for young guys is, there's so much more to life than just a dating relationship. It may not seem like it, but find that purpose, find that thing that sets you on fire for life, and just run in that direction. And I promise, one day you'll look up and somebody's running right next to you.
That is so well said. Man, that's great. Loved it.
Yeah.
Calvin, what about you, buddy?
I think for me, I would say, don't make dating the pinnacle of your experience right now. I think, and I would say this to myself too, is spend your time and take your energy and put it back into your community. We're building a community. and just finding what that is for you, whether that's the gym, whether that's rock climbing, it could be Legos. I don't know what that is for you, but just something, build a community around that. And I think you'll look up and you'll have a lot more potential matches in your life than if you were just to stay home and not have any interest.
So I'm going to flip the table on women now and ask you a tough question again. And that is, if you had advice for women to make it easier for men, let's say, to be involved in the dating scene, men that think have checked out, given up, whatever the case may be, what advice would you have for women to allow this to go just a little easier and smoother for men too?
What is she looking for? What is she actually looking for? Not just, what does she think that she wants as far as like this, whatever we talked about, the 6'10", millionaire.
Yeah.
But what are those underlying qualities, right? Is it somebody who's passionate and driven? Is it somebody who has a faith? Is it somebody who is just really a great listener or something like that? And maybe expand your horizon as to what is possible. Maybe give some guy a second date. And of course, that is not like blanket, advice, but I think that you'd be surprised at the number of men who are out there who may fit what you're actually looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Calvin, how about you?
Yeah. I really like that, Isaac. And I want to even piggyback off that a little bit and say, I think a lot of guys are very nervous on first or second or even third dates.
Yeah.
And so give them a first or second or a third chance and let them actually like show their colors and who they are. And it's hard asking girls on dates. It's really hard. It's really scary. And the girls can be super intimidating. So I would say just meet us a little bit. Make it easy on us.
I like that. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I'd like to see gals in some regards have a little more grace. Rejection is not easy. And then be a little more open-minded. I mean, to you guys' point, you have a strict criteria of what you want. If they don't fit in that, you don't want them. Maybe the love of life actually exists and he's out there. Maybe it's just a doorstep away. But you'll never see that if you're not willing to open your mind and open to it.
You got to be flexible.
What you're looking for. I like the idea of a man struggles on a first date. If it's a decent guy, give him another shot. Who knows? Men can behave differently on first versus second or third dates. It can be nerve-wracking. I can't say enough thank you about you. Be willing to be vulnerable. I mean, you're exposing yourself potentially to 100,000 views. And that's risk, right? But I appreciate your honesty. I'm hopefully that men who watch this will learn, and even some women who watch this will learn from you guys. I appreciate you being vulnerable to express where you're at in the dating scene and kind of what's going on. I think, look, the answer lies somewhere between. I mean, men aren't perfect, and we don't behave so at times, and women aren't either. And I think both of us need to recognize that and work toward somewhere we can meet in the middle and get back where, long-term relationships and marriage means something. So anyway, both of you, much appreciated. Much kudos to both of you. And I wish you the best of luck in the future. Good luck with your relationship, Isaac.
Thank you.
And good luck finding the love of your life, Calvin.
Cool. Thanks,
All
Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
Message for men. Thank you guys for joining. I would appreciate it if you subscribe, give us a comment. I always want to hear from you. We love the comments. But thank you for joining us today. I hope it was useful. And men, hang in there. Thank you very much.